Kentaro Miura, creator of the seminal work Berserk, has passed away, leaving it unfinished. What will happen to Berserk, and what should happen? This is Exasperated Nerd Explains. Berserk first began publishing in 1989, and there are more than 50 million volumes in circulation of the 40 volumes of content, but it is not complete. From interviews in recent years, Miura hinted that the story was heading towards a conclusion, or at the very least in the back half of the story. But in many ways, an ending still seems far off. The chapters over the last few years really feel like things were changing and the pace was quickening, with new revelations and developments, building in anticipation of what would happen next. Being a huge fan of the series, I want it to be completed. I like recommending Berserk to others, sharing that fandom, as I like to do with many properties. But with Miura passing away, with no real conclusion, it's kind of a hard sell to someone. I know that's not fair, and not really relevant as to whether it should be completed or not, but it is something I've thought about. I want Berserk to be recognized as one of the greatest mangas ever, and it is hard for it to stand on that pedestal if there's not an ending. That's not to undercut the great story that has already been told within the pages, or the stellar artwork that Miura produced chapter after chapter. I'm not the first to think it. It's a thought that's been memed for years about whether or not Miura would pass away before finishing it. Much like George R.R. Martin endures the same thing for the Game of Thrones novels. Miura did have a studio and had recently hired additional assistants, bringing it up to a total of 5. Though not all of them were working on Berserk. There were also other projects that Miura was heavily involved with. He was a very private person, so outside of that studio, I'm not really sure if anyone knows how involved the assistants were in the day-to-day process of Berserk. One of his assistants has spoken out on Twitter and said that the future is uncertain, and it will take time for a decision to be made. Should it be completed? Should it be entrusted to his assistants, whom Miura obviously must have trusted? It's hard to say. We don't know how far ahead Miura worked. Does he have storyboards for multiple chapters outlined, or did he just focus on completing one at a time? Having seen his storyboards, from an art standpoint, everything is pretty well laid out, so a few more chapters could be drawn if those are around. But did he detail a script with these storyboards? Did he outline the plot over several chapters or volumes? Did he tell his assistants how it would end? From interviews, I would say the answers to these is probably no. He did not seem to know the ending, letting the story guide him. In one interview he said, "I used to have the final moves planned out, but lately I've been thinking I'd rather figure them out when I come to it. So now it's hard to say what could happen." However, who knows if that was just for the interview and to keep from being pressed on an ending. Also, in a separate interview, the interviewer said, "I was told you draw the next chapter once you decide on the developments therein," to which Miura responded, "But I suppose stopping before I overthink things is a secret to keeping work going a long time. If I cram too much in, that creates pressure. My hands become tied and the current story is rendered inflexible. I think about it all loosely, and I first delve into things once I reach the point of drawing storyboards. I have a rough idea of what I absolutely have to do, so I can just ponder any seasoning beyond that when the time comes. In particular, I often conceive ways to present things as I'm drawing." To me, those are the most relevant points as to whether or not the story should continue. I really want it to, but this was such a singular vision from Miura that I don't think it should continue unless there were these details in place. Even if every detail or even a larger outline wasn't all laid out, as long as the final fates of the main characters were talked about in conversation or written down somewhere, that would at least help. If that doesn't even exist, it should probably end. Even if all these details did exist, I could see any further chapters mired in controversy and arguments with fans complaining about any further chapters, and especially any ending that's given. Whether it's too dark or too happy, or Miura would not have drawn it that way, or do the assistants really know how it was going to end? And even if they knew the ending, how much detail would they know on how to arrive at that end? That's not to say some fans may have said that anyways and been upset at the ending. Just look at all the fans complaining about how Attack on Titan concluded. But I think a lot more of them would be vocal if the ending was not satisfactory to them personally, now that Miura is not doing it. So even with a best case scenario, knowing how the story would unfold, I would be hesitant to want any further chapters. If there's no guidance, no notes, I think Berserk should probably end with Miura. It's hard to keep working on someone's vision with the same dedication and detail that the original author put into it. Known for sometimes going pixel by pixel in his artwork, can anyone really match this master of the craft? That being said, if they do decide to continue, I will be reading it along with all the other fans to see what officially happens. But it may just be up in the air forever, with the tale never coming to an official conclusion. What do you think? Should they continue towards an ending regardless? Should they just stop with the last chapter that was released? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content. Thanks for watching. Bye.